Welcome to Intuitive Astrology with Molly McCord. Thank you so much for joining me today as we're going to discuss the big astrology that we are moving through from February 18th until February 25th, as this is a powerful phase in our evolutionary growth, and perhaps you are feeling it in a vibrant, empowering way. Now, we are just coming off of the Aquarius Solar Eclipse, which was on February 17th at 28 degrees 50 minutes of Aquarius. That's where the sun and moon were conjunct, initiating a powerful new start at the end of Aquarius. Now, I've talked about this for a while, and there are separate videos focusing on that eclipse energy. But now that the energy has blasted through, this is a powerful time to move forward. And that is a big part of this time in February. In fact, it's February, March, and April are the energies of initiations, powerful new timeline beginnings, and even a sense that you are connecting with new potentials that maybe you only considered, thought about, or discussed. And now the energy is saying it's time to make moves forward. It's time to move into these new parts of yourself that are coming online and are being birthed during this big period of time. Now, before I jump into more of the astrology of this week, I did want to touch on the Chinese astrology that has also been very strong and has been something we've been discussing, because this eclipse was also the Lunar New Year. And every year there is a Lunar New Year, which coincides with the second new moon after the winter solstice. It's directly linked to the moon and the moon cycles. And this means that the Lunar New Year can vary widely between late January into late February. So that's why the date for the Lunar New Year changes every year, because it's literally based on the moon's cycle and relationship with the sun. Now, in Chinese astrology, there are 12 animals that represent different qualities and archetypal understandings of a person, of your traits, positive and negative traits, if you will. So 12 animals, similar to Western tropical astrology, where we have the 12 astrology signs. So in Chinese astrology, the animals rotate every year between yin and yang, similar to Western astrology, where we rotate between feminine and masculine. The same is true in Chinese astrology. So that means every 12 years, we have a year of the horse, which is what we are just beginning here as of February 17th. And it will last until the next Lunar New Year in 2027. Then we'll move into the year of the goat. Now, as these 12 animals rotate, another important signature in Chinese astrology is that they change between 5 elements. Elements of wood, fire, earth, metal, and water. So that means that each time there is a year of the horse, the horse is in a different element. So right now we're entering the year of the fire horse, which is very robust, courageous energy about forward movement, independence, momentum, striking out on your own to follow what is giving you life. So this is a very invigorated horse. 12 years ago, in 2014, we also had the year of the horse, but it was the wood horse. So a different element, a different energy signature. 12 years from now, when we have our next year of the horse, it will be an earth horse, then a metal horse, then a water horse. So each animal has a pattern of moving through all 5 elements. And this is why the energy signature is different every 12 years. And so this also highlights how rare each combination is, because we will only experience certain versions of this energy a set number of times in our lives. So for those of you born in 1966, you were born in the year of the fire horse. And so here, when you turn 60, you have the fire horse energy again for only the second time in your life. And most likely it won't happen again unless you live to be 120, which anything is possible these days. But you only have your same element and animal at 60 years of age. And so we can look at how in Chinese astrology, every year is rare, right? We just had the wood snake. We're closing out that chapter in the energies of the wood snake. In 12 years, the next snake will be a fire snake. It will be in a different element, a different expression. So I hope this helps explain the complexities and patterns in Chinese astrology. And it's fascinating to look at how the 12-year cycle with each animal will sync up with your Jupiter cycle, roughly. So when you turn 12, you have your first Jupiter return. That's also when you would have the same year of the Chinese animal you were born under. So you can see how that 12-year pattern will track between the Chinese astrology animals and your natal Jupiter. And then when you have this once in a lifetime Chinese astrology return cycle, which is called the sexagenary cycle, meaning it relates to turning 60, this is a time of a major celebration and milestone that is about beginning a second life or a new start, which corresponds to completing your second Saturn return. And that second Saturn return starts around 58 and 59 years old. So basically 60 is an important marker here in Chinese astrology. It also syncs up with Western astrology. And this can be a fortuitous time where you could have a renewal of purpose, life force, understanding of what you want to create and experience next, especially based on your lived experiences and earned wisdom, which occurs with the second Saturn return. So I hope that explains the bigger picture of these Chinese astrological cycles, as well as why every Lunar New Year is essentially a celebration of a unique combination of elements and animals. So let's switch gears here back to Western tropical astrology and go into what is coming through right now that is so important and pivotal. And to be fair, you could be feeling it, or you could be looking around and being like, what's the big deal? Nothing's happening. Nothing's changing. There's all this talk about it, but I'm not seeing anything shifting yet. Well, part of what this Aquarius Solar Eclipse has been activating are whole new levels of galactic consciousness and understanding around what we're creating in our human experiences. And the way I'm seeing it is that a big part of this new start is in elevating and evolving the human nervous system. It's asking you to look at how you are personally processing and connecting to the energies on the planet now, because let's be real, there are some very difficult, diabolical energies that have been exposed, and they are coming up to the surface for a very powerful reason and understanding that's part of our evolution, so that we can make choices around where we want this planet to go next, and that we can also be consciously aware of what needs to be completed and removed from the human experience. So the eclipse at the end of Aquarius brings about very big cosmic understandings. It's that cosmic picture of what is possible and where we can go, and ensuring that we are in alignment with that direction, body, mind, and soul. So what I'm seeing here is that there is a deep reset and recalibration within our nervous systems as we are being asked to pay attention to all the energies you're feeling and to work with them, to not work against them or stifle them, to not ignore them or disassociate, but rather to honor them, welcome them as something you are learning to master. And now that we are moving into Pisces season, there will be more support, especially in the ethers, for you to do so, to look at what parts of your real world, emotional world, spiritual world, all need support that is coming in and is newly available. I'm feeling like this is all part of a new chapter that is starting over these next few months, February, March, and April. And part of this new chapter is ensuring that you're holding and embodying a new energetic mastery, so that you know you are in charge of everything you're sensing, feeling, moving through. And yet you're also beautifully supported by your cosmic team, angels, master guides, and whomever you connect with and you resonate with out there in the spiritual realms. And so this is a time when we know we are not alone. There are a lot of benevolent energies here supporting humanity. And they are guiding us through various situations that I feel are being kind of stirred up. Like there's these worst case scenarios that are being given energy and focus, but I don't see them really happening. I've talked about that before. I don't see that we're going into any full-fledged, extreme, violent energies. I feel like we have support that is helping us avoid or swerve around some of those potentials, because I feel like there is an understanding of how important this time is for us on the planet because of the reset that's happening here, especially with that Saturn-Neptune conjunction at 0 degrees of Aries that hasn't happened for over 6,000 years. That is what has been shared by the lovely astrologer Heather Ensworth. And so it's important to note that we are in a phase of resetting humanity's experiences on the planet that hasn't happened for thousands of years. It is that big. And you're probably thinking, okay, great. I'm still drinking coffee out of my same coffee cup. I don't get it. I'm not sure what all this is about. But as an astrologer, what I would tell you is that it's going to be very evident and clear over the next 2 to 3 years as these energies play out, how much is changing and accelerating quickly on this planet. So maybe today, as you go through your inbox and you eat your meatballs, you're not noticing any grand change. But this is something that is unfolding, and it is happening most definitely in the background, and it's going to become even more apparent and obvious over the next few months. We are certainly in an accelerated time frame here where things are going to be speeding up, and there will be more shock and awe developments. There will be more things that rock the boat. When we're talking about what has recently been revealed in terms of the files that have been openly shared, there's even been parts of those files that have been redacted. 1999 to 2001 are not in the release of those files. So it makes you wonder, well, why? What would be removed from those files in those 2 years leading up to September 11th, 2001. So there's going to be a lot more information coming out and coming forward, a lot more that's going to be very difficult to consume and understand. So this is why it's very important that you continue to listen to your nervous system, take care of your emotions, honor the flow and release that's absolutely essential as part of the human experience, and to note that all of this is ultimately moving us forward, even if it feels like it's a very dark, disgusting energy right now. And it is for many people. It is for millions of people. And then there are those who have known about it since 2016 and 2017. And so we've had time to work through this stuff and process this. But I remember when I first came across this information years ago, it was so ridiculously horrible. And that's what is also going to be a catalyst for change and forward movement. So if you can see it in that way, that this is about mass progress for the collective and that there will be solutions, options, and new directions for us to go, that's all a part of what's going on right here in February with this Aquarius Solar Eclipse and the Saturn-Neptune conjunction at 0 degrees of Aries, which is exact on Friday, February 20th at 11:53 a.m. Eastern Time. And because so many big energies are happening consecutively, it brings more of a heightened focus to what is unfolding and to the burst of forward motion and movement that's also coming in. Remember that we are made to keep evolving, to keep going, keep creating, to keep maturing. We are made to always be co-creating with the energies available to us and that we're accessing and calling in. And so this is a time at a personal level to look at what is your next chapter. What are you intentionally putting energy towards? Because chances are that is also coming up to your awareness right now and perhaps being given to you in dreams, in meditation, in various experiences you're having. You might feel that even your intuition is busting wide open and that your energy is more expansive. In fact, that's how I'm seeing a shift right now for many of you who have been on this path for a long time. Many of you who are light workers, starseeds, very powerful energy masters. You are expanding your aura into a very clear, vibrant, bright place that you are also anchoring down. You are anchoring in more of this light and these new energies, which is supporting the forward movement of humanity and on the planet. Now, this might not be conscious until you choose to make it so, but that would be important right now, is to really feel strong and solid in those energy frequencies that are very high vibrational. In fact, that's one thing I felt with this Aquarius solar eclipse was the energy came through and it was very clear, bright, strong, and there's been tension building. There's been this increase in the energy that's meant to bust through. And I feel that part of that is happening this week as well, as that is part of the co-creation energy between our individual auras and the universe. So take it if it resonates, leave it if it doesn't. But what it feels is that that's part of how we are powerfully declaring what we want to create next in this chapter. And I do feel that there are things coming forward now that are uniquely coded to manifest at this time that you could not have experienced previously. It just wasn't the right time. There wasn't the correct energy or support. And so now there is. And I'm also feeling like this is bringing in the people who are on the same frequency, as well as making it very evident the people who are not, the people that are no longer in resonance with you and no longer in alignment with your purpose, your path, and what you're focused on now. So we have a beautiful display here of free will and intentions available to us, where you are being guided to declare what you want now. And it's not about being small either. This isn't about holding back anything that your heart desires or that you dream of or that you feel you're here to create and put out. You're meant to be very brave and strong in this part of yourself. This is also where your soul is coming in powerfully to assist in those new energies. Now, on Friday, I'm going to discuss this more. So Friday's podcast will specifically help you in gaining strength and clarity on what you're ready to enter into. I've had some really cool messages come through about how to work with that and how to ensure you're ready to say yes to this new part of yourself. So we'll talk about that on Friday. Getting back to the astrology of right now, this is a time as well to give yourself a necessary pause and break to check in. That's like a hand on the heart, stillness, to just stop and listen. What am I feeling? What is going on within me? What am I sensing here that I need to pay attention to without letting the mind, ego, or outside distractions override those messages? Now, the sun enters Pisces on February 18th at 10:51 a.m. Eastern Time. And so this begins the sun's journey through the final sign of the zodiac, which is mutable water. And that's the ability to let things flow and move, to let things go, to let there be a sense of trusting what is unraveling or being removed in your own energy field. And this could be something that you welcome. Now, when the sun first moves into Pisces, there can be a need to step back and move away from all the noise and stimuli that has been so intense here during Aquarius season. And so it can be that first moment when you put on your headphones and you're like, oh, wow, this feels nice. This feels calm. There could be an exhale, and there can also be confusion. Because even though the sun moves into Pisces and we're seeking more of a retreat and downtime, there can be now a sense of everything that's been moving all around becomes even more confusing or distracting. There can be more questions, more misunderstandings, too much information, and you don't know what to do with it. You don't know where it goes or if it even makes sense. And so we enter into the realms of Pisces here, where we already have Mercury, Venus, and the North Node. And this is now a time to drop from the head into the heart. But I'm seeing that heart chakra connected to the crown chakra. And so your emotional awareness and your soul whispers are aligning with empathy, compassion, forgiveness, completion, love, reflection, and growth. There is a lot of growth that happens as the planets move through Pisces. And that's because it is a point of completion where you look back on, what was I learning? What was I understanding? What was I experiencing? What was this about? What was that about? So that's where more of these questions can come up, but you might realize you're getting some fast answers or some clear understandings of the spiritual significance of that energetic experience, because everything is energy. So everything holds an energetic experience for us to understand and learn. And a big part of the human experience is through contrasts, is through dancing between the full spectrum of emotions and experiences, of seeing things from one side and then moving it over to the other side. And part of the Pisces energy is the opening to see how it all contributes to your human experience, how it all offers you more to work with or play with or perceive when you look at it in hindsight or in a state of intentional spiritual growth. This is where you may seek more time alone and by yourself, just to be in your own world and to filter through your own thoughts, to move through your own emotions. Pisces is the energy of flowing and moving with the current currents of energy. And so you might feel that you need that type of support right now that you can only get when you are in solitude or alone with your soul and yourself. So that is certainly a big theme right now as we move into Pisces season, where we also have Venus, which has just been conjunct that North Node in Pisces. So Venus conjunct the North Node can open up fated developments that support your spiritual healing, karmic closures, relationship endings, as well as fated developments that are in alignment with your current self and needs. Since Venus is about what you need to receive to feel loved, confident, seen, valued, respected, cherished. And what is really fascinating is that this is the fourth time Venus in Pisces has been conjunct the North Node in Pisces. And that's because a year ago, in 2025, we had Venus retrograding from Aries back into Pisces. And as she did so, she was working with that North Node in Pisces 3 times. And those conjunctions were at the late degrees of Pisces. 25 to 29 degrees of Pisces. So now Venus has been conjunct that North Node in Pisces for the 4th time. That was at 9 degrees of Pisces. So what have you released and moved through over the past year related to Venus matters? And this means it's divinely timed, especially in Pisces. It means that you've been closing out important parts of your life and of your journey that have also taken time to move through, simply because it took these 4 conjunctions for the energy to fully move through. So Venus matters relate to what I previously mentioned about what you receive in terms of how you feel loved, seen, and valued. It also relates to finances, money, the money you take, the money you make, the money you save, where you place your values, what matters to you, that you buy and own, your possessions. Venus relates to your creativity, to what you feel drawn to create and how you express yourself. She also relates to matters of love, friendship, and women. So this can involve friends, sisters, allies, love interests, partners, spouses, anyone that you would share a more personal level relationship with is Venus, because Venus would invite people into her world and into her space to get to know her and to share ultimately good times with her. So as she's had these 4 conjunctions to the North Node in Pisces, there has been more turnover and release here in understanding what that has shown you about your values, your needs, what you seek in terms of a common bond and connection with people. This relates to people who are on the same page spiritually, who would share even that soulmate energy, which is Pisces, but it can also bring up where there are vast differences in your path and in where you're going. And that can be showing up through that South Node in Virgo. And the Virgo energy, especially in its harshness, can lack the bigger understanding, can be disconnected from the feelings and compassion of Pisces, can lack empathy. The South Node in Virgo can be very critical, insulting, and harsh. It can be stuck in the past where there hasn't been a full processing of emotions or what has been or what was, because the energy can be too much in the mind and hasn't really gone into, well, how do I feel about this? What is my role? What is my responsibility? What am I not seeing in myself? And so part of this has been bringing to our attention the types of relationships we need with people who share our values, but those values have been changing, certainly. And as this Venus completes time in Pisces, where she's exalted, there can be more of a softening and a release. There can be more of an understanding that was previously hidden, especially over the last year. So this is actually an important turning point here for Venus, as she has this 4th and final conjunction to the North Node in Pisces. She moves through the rest of Pisces, and then coming up on February 22nd, she will trine Jupiter retrograde in Cancer at 15 degrees. And this is where she's going to feel a sense of what she has learned about herself and her needs. She's going to feel new levels of personal understanding, because that Jupiter retrograde in Cancer is bringing up anything from the past that you're connecting to your own self-love, self-acceptance, and personal healing journey now. So this is a very personal internal trine between Venus and Pisces and Jupiter retrograde in Cancer. Again, it's at 15 degrees, and it's meant to bring you into more of your emotional body and what you are clearing out, as well as what you are fully accepting and loving about yourself. This is great for female relationships, for friendships, for the development of close love-based connections as well. That trine between these 2 water signs wants to generate trust and strength in really knowing each other or knowing another person. And so if you have those relationships in your life, which I hope you do, it's a good time then to give them energy and give them gratitude. That could be a beautiful way of using the Venus energy this week. The people you appreciate, the people you adore and you love, and you're happy you can reach out to them and hang out with them and be with them. This is a good time to reinforce those connections and to let people know how you feel. Just like letting someone know, you're so special to me. I'm so grateful for your friendship. You're the best friend I've ever had. Here's $1 billion. Very simple, very heartfelt, and a beautiful display of Venus trining Jupiter. Now, also on February 22nd, Mars in Aquarius will sextile Chiron in Aries at 23 degrees. And this can be a very strengthening energy too, because Mars in Aquarius has new solutions and understandings to give to Chiron in Aries. This aspect brings about Mars's connection to bigger systems and a higher vision that then Chiron can use for remedies, medicine, and healing, especially anything related to your self-concept and your self-identity. And that's because Chiron is in Aries, which is about the sense of self. Mars is also going to help direct Chiron towards a new vision and the energy or plan to get there. So February 22nd has some lovely energies here with that Mars sextiling Chiron and Venus trining Jupiter. It's also a lovely balance between the masculine and the feminine energies on February 22nd. Then on February 25th, Mercury stations retrograde at 22 degrees of Pisces, and this could actually be on February 26th for you, depending on your time zone. But here we have a slow-moving Mercury that comes to a standstill that you are meant to hear, feel, and trust. And this is a direct message from your soul and your intuition that perhaps you've already been feeling and sensing. But as Mercury stations retrograde, there is a reverberation of the energies. There's a sense here that this is important and your soul wants to ensure you are fully receiving something that then you're going to be reviewing, contemplating, and moving through as the Mercury retrograde journey unfolds. And that will last until March 20th as Mercury moves back to 8 degrees of Pisces and will be conjunct that north node. And so it's going to be quite interesting because this is personal and internal. This is something that maybe you are being invited to see or work through in a new light, from the light of your intuition and your emotions, not just from the strength or perceptions of your mind, the mental energy. There's something here that's actually more big picture, and it's important because of how Mercury is going to travel back to that north node and be conjunct the north node as it stations direct around the spring equinox. So know that whatever you are sitting with, feeling into, and trusting is going to be an ongoing theme as we move into March. And I did do a separate podcast episode for you on these energetics of this Mercury and Pisces journey, especially the retrograde phase and how Mercury and Pisces is going to be trining Jupiter as well as conjunct the North Node. So please listen to that podcast episode for more specifics on this energy. I will keep discussing it here in the Wednesday show, though, as we move through Mercury retrograde week by week. Even though Mercury is in its fall here in Pisces, which means it is not strong. It is swimming in the ocean, perhaps drowning at times, until Mercury remembers that you have the ability to flow with the tide and move with the changes. That's where Mercury learns to trust more of what he's feeling, and that it's okay to close your eyes and surrender. In fact, when you do so, you get new visions and new information. And so this Mercury is then learning to receive those messages from outside the mind, outside of linear thinking, and allow himself to trust what is coming through, even if there is no physical proof or validation just yet. So we're all going to be in these deep, watery realms of Pisces season here with a very interesting Mercury retrograde that will also be a part of our next eclipse coming up on March 3rd. That will be the Virgo lunar eclipse at 13 degrees of Virgo in your chart. We will be discussing more of that soon, but this can help you see where we're headed here in eclipse season, which is that everything that's coming in, very bright, strong, empowering, and future focused, is then requiring us to look at what do I need to upgrade and update in the Virgo areas of my chart in order to move into this new chapter. What do I need to rearrange, get rid of, remove, reorganize, restructure, so that the Virgo areas of my life aren't holding me back from how I'm here to move into this next chapter. So we will talk about that more in this podcast, as I have episodes for you every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. But I hope this gives you a validating understanding of what you may be moving through at this time, as well as how big this new cycle is. And again, even if you're not seeing it just yet, and you're wondering, is it real? Is it just a bunch of exaggerated talk. It is going to play out here over the next few months and into the rest of this year. And then we're going to really see, wow, yes, these changes are significant and they're real. And there are many new starts here that are lining up. And so speaking of a new start, I wanted to share something with you from my publisher, which is a masterclass on structuring and writing your self-help or spiritual journey book. I have shared this masterclass before, but it is being offered again in April by the very talented Hillary T. Smith. She is a senior editor at Hierophant Publishing. She has been my editor, as well as the editor for numerous other best-selling books, including the editor for Don Jose Ruiz and Don Miguel Ruiz Jr. So you get direct access to Hillary and her brilliance through 4 weeks of refining your message, understanding the key pain points and promises you need to deliver, what to include that strengthens your voice and your message, as well as more ways to develop your book into an experience or another format. So this is a wonderful course. I know many of you have actually been so grateful to come across it every time it's offered. So I wanted to share that it is starting in April and it will be held for 4 Thursdays. Starting April 9th. I'm going to put the details below the podcast here in the description box if you want to check it out. I wanted to share it with you sooner than later so it can be on your calendar if this is right on time for you. There is also an early bird registration that's in effect until March 1st, so perhaps that is well timed for you too. But I hope this is a good class if this is part of what you are creating right now in your life. Also, as we move forward, this is a time to be aware that you can access your highest timeline with these shifts of 2026 and beyond. And so it's important to be aware of what those new starts are leading you to that are also going to be supported by Pluto in Aquarius and Uranus in Gemini, which will happen in April. So you might be sensing that things are coming together for you, even if you're just feeling it and not fully seeing it yet. But with these 3 outer planets all connecting in a favorable alignment called a minor grand trine, the developments are going to pick up and accelerate. They are going to be fast moving, exciting, interesting, bringing in more people, new people, all kinds of pieces that have been on their own now collaborate and sync up in this minor grand trine alignment. So this is something to be aware of here in 2026 and in your chart. And I want to remind you that I do have guidance on connecting these parts of your chart in my Manifesting with the Minor Grand Trine program. It is intermediate level astrology, but it shows you what each of these outer planets is going to be bringing your attention to in 3 areas of your life. I also describe for you our astrological journey up to this point, reviewing some of the major astrology we've had over the past few decades and how this particular phase is where you are aligning with a new start that your soul is supporting and guiding you through. It's essentially a cosmic arrow here. So I wanted to bring that to your attention because it is a big part of 2026. So I'll have details for that below in the podcast description too, as well as coupon code TRINE to save you some money on this program, which you reference into 2029. Yes, you buy it once and then you come back every year and reference it because I keep adding to it. There's over 22 videos and teachings in the program right now because there are many layers to this, but it helps you understand more of Saturn in Aries, for example, as well as Chiron in Taurus. So it's meant to be a multi-year program that you reference and see what is happening in your chart. I hope it supports you and guides you, and I hope it also gives you some important things to plan for now. So again, that's called Manifesting with the Minor Grand Trine, and I'll share more of that in the description box. Thank you so much for joining me as always. I appreciate your time, energy, and presence, and I look forward to connecting with you soon here as we discuss on Friday more ways to work with the new starts that you're being guided towards. Have a beautiful week ahead as we move into Pisces season, and I hope to see you back here soon.